Welcome back to The Explainer. You know, as an international relations analyst, it's honestly incredibly rare to watch diplomatic history unfold in real time with stakes quite this high. Today, we're not just looking at a standard news update. No, we are unpacking a massive draft agreement that literally just got signed by the US and Iran. Officially, it's the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, but honestly, you're going to hear it called the 14 Points. This document is essentially designed to halt a major global conflict right in its tracks, and today we're going to break down exactly how it's trying to pull that off.
War or peace. That is the ultimate dichotomy we're looking at here, because the stakes, they could not possibly be higher. I mean, think about the context for a second. We've got naval ships deployed in the Persian Gulf, absolute scramble mode emergency diplomatic meetings, and the entire Middle East balancing on a knife's edge. So this 14-point memo isn't just your standard bureaucratic paper pushing, it's an emergency bridge. It is literally a geopolitical emergency brake designed to physically stop a war from escalating. Grasping what's in these 14 points is absolutely crucial to understanding our immediate geopolitical future.
To make sense of a text this complex, we definitely need a strategic roadmap. So we've broken it down into 4 pillars. First, the 60-day emergency pause. Second, unlocking the global oceans. Third, nuclear promises and financial lifelines. And finally, sanctions, prisoners, and oversight.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the 60-day emergency pause, which covers points 1 through 3.
Point 1 is where the whole thing kicks off, demanding an immediate, permanent cessation of all military operations across the board. And what's really vital to highlight here is the specific inclusion of Lebanon in this ceasefire. It explicitly mandates that operations stop there, too. Then we roll right into point 2, which establishes mutual sovereignty. Now, in the IR world, this is your classic de-escalation prerequisite, right? It's that baseline promise to stay out of each other's internal affairs. Without these 2 points acting as the absolute bedrock, the rest of this agreement, it simply doesn't exist.
60. That number represents point 3. And honestly, it acts as the ultimate ticking clock for this entire scenario. You see, this whole deal, it's actually just a temporary pause. It sets a tremendously strict timer. The US and Iran have exactly 60 days, just 2 months. They have 2 months to turn this preliminary draft into a permanent binding treaty. So yeah, the pressure's totally on.
Moving right along to Section 2, unlocking the global oceans, and this covers points 4 and 5.
Now, this whole setup is a massive geopolitical quid pro quo. Point 4 requires the United States to lift its naval blockade on Iran within 30 days, and matched perfectly against that is Point 5, which obligates Iran to immediately reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Guys, we are talking about reopening one of the single most critical oil transit choke points on the entire planet. It's a huge trade-off.
And that brilliantly illustrates why this specific part of the memo matters to literally everyone watching this explainer. The text demands that shipping volumes must rapidly return to pre-war levels. This isn't just some abstract military maneuver. Restoring this shipping lane and doing it fast is an absolute necessity to prevent a devastating global economic shock. If those massive oil tankers aren't moving freely through that narrow strait, well, the global economy basically grinds to a halt.
Which brings us to Section 3, nuclear promises and financial lifelines, encompassing points 6 through 9.
Just let that number sink in for a second. $300 billion. Under point 6, the memorandum establishes a staggering $300 billion reconstruction and economic development fund for Iran. This massive financial package is backed by the US and regional partners. I mean, it is an overwhelming amount of cash completely designed to transform their economic landscape. But as with literally any diplomatic agreement of this scale, there is a major catch tied to that money.
And here is the catch. That money is heavily, intimately tied to the nuclear framework. Point 7 pushes the extremely difficult decisions, like the final fate of Iran's highly enriched material, to those upcoming 60-day talks. Basically, they're deferring the hardest technical details to that super strict window we talked about earlier. Meanwhile, point 8 forces an explicit reiteration of a core promise. Iran explicitly agrees that it will never build or acquire nuclear weapons. That $300 billion financial lifeline? It's tethered directly to those strict non-proliferation promises.
But you know, negotiations take time, and economies, they can't always wait around. Point 9 addresses this reality by keeping the Iranian economy afloat in the immediate term. It grants immediate U.S. Treasury waivers. What this means on the ground is that for the duration of that 60-day window, Iran has the legal right to export its oil and petrochemicals. It's a very calculated move to ensure immediate economic stability while the permanent details are hashed out at the negotiating table.
Finally, we hit Section 4, Sanctions, Prisoners, and Oversight. This covers our final stretch, points 10 through 14.
Okay, let me rapidly guide you through these final logistical levers. Points 10 and 11 dictate the lifting of secondary sanctions, which basically means international companies won't get penalized by the U.S. for trading with Iran. Plus, unfreezing billions of dollars in global assets back to Iran's central bank. Then, points 12 and 13 ensure everything happens in a highly structured step-for-step implementation to build trust, running right alongside a massive humanitarian effort for phased prisoner swaps and repatriating citizens. And to wrap it all up, point 14 deploys strict international oversight. We're talking the UN and neutral nations stepping in to monitor the ceasefire and those crucial maritime routes to ensure absolutely no one cheats.
So looking at all 14 points together, it gives us a really clear picture. Stepping back, the big takeaway here represents what this treaty truly is strategically. The Islamabad Memorandum is, at its core, an emergency political band-aid. It's not a permanent, flawless solution. Not yet, anyway. It's designed first and foremost to stop World War III, and to figure out all the complicated, highly sensitive details later during that 60-day window.
Which brings us to our final thought for today's explainer. Unlike past deals like the 2015 JCPOA, the initial Iran nuclear deal, which took literal years to negotiate, this 14-point memo demands a resolution in just 2 months. So I leave you with this. Is a 60-day window truly enough time for the U.S. and Iran to build the kind of lasting trust required to turn this emergency band-aid into permanent peace? It's a question the entire world is desperately waiting for the answer to. Thank you so much for joining me to unpack this crucial document, and as always, keep learning.